Hello, welcome back to Evil Genius Props. My name is Mike, and I'll be your Evil Genius. It is still our Summer of Tiki. Not, I can't even. Oh, fine. Summer of Tiki. We're continuing on with part 2 of our Tiki Cat Tower build, which is turning it from a regular cat tower to a Tiki themed cat tower, which basically means making the platforms look like palm trees and the hidey hole look like a giant tiki head. So let's get over to it. All right, so the next thing that we're going to work on is the tiki face to go on that front. And this is some 1/2 inch thick EVA foam. They sell this in hardware stores as like anti-fatigue matting for your floor. And you can get 4 2-foot square pieces, so 24 square feet, I think they said. I'm not doing the math. For like 10 bucks, and it's a good sort of workable material, and we'll be able to carve directly into this. For the tiki face, I have a design. You can see I'm not the best at drawing, but you get the idea. I'm kind of going to be basing it loosely off of these designs. They have the right mouth shape for what I'm looking for, because I want to have that mouth sort of open up for the cats to get in and out of. But for symmetry purposes, what I want to do is draw a line down the center here. So it's 16 inches wide now. I already cut it down to size. Just going to mark it out at 8 inches a couple of places because that should be in the middle. All right, that's my center line. So that's this line through here. So that's the middle. So the middle of the mouth's going to be here. Mouth's going to take up most of this space. I'll measure to see how big I want that to be for the cats to be able to get through easily. Okay, so we're going to have the mouth. We'll go ahead and put in our nose. And what I'm doing here is just, I sort of sketched out the top point and the bottom point, and we'll just draw a line across. And so those will be even. I wouldn't normally be this worried about getting this set, except it's a face, and that's what humans are really good about recognizing and sort of noticing problems with. So if it's a little bit off, normally I could get away with that sort of thing with what I make, but because it's a face, it's if a little bit off, especially the eyes, it's really going to stick out. That's still not quite even, but it's close enough, I think, to get that through. I'm going to go take a break here real quick and measure out how big that mouth should be, which basically means measuring a cat. So wish me luck. Okay, I went and measured the existing openings that we have, or the openings on the existing cat tower. That's the word I'm looking for. And it's about 7 inches, but it's still a little bit small for our cats. So if I make it a little bit bigger than that, say 8 inches, hopefully that would be a little bit easier for them to get in and out. And I'm going to do this just like I did with the eyes. I'm going to sort of sketch out one side, and then draw some lines to mirror that on the other side. And we're actually going to cut through this part and cut it out entirely. And then once that's cut out, put this over the opening that I've made, and probably have to cut out a little bit on the sides, but that's all right. Mark out our top and bottom here. And this is all going to be carved and painted and whatnot, so I don't need to worry too much. 2 inches off. I'm not worried about the lines being on here. They're going to get covered up and carved away, and just in general won't be there. opening our eyes. Now we need to do a little bit more decoration in here. And we're going to do that with the carving when we get to that point. I'm not sure about these triangles. We'll start carving and see how that turns out before I make any final decisions there. Let's go ahead and just cut out the mouth part. One of the other things I really like about this material is that it's easy to cut just with like a utility knife. I like these ones with the long snap-off blades. Lets you be able to cut sort of make a bigger cut versus some of the ones with just the other like utility style razor blades. Another thing is if you have just like a little knife sharpener like this, because this dulls a blade so quickly, every so often I just like to run it over a sharpener like this, pick that up off of someone else. I forget who, unfortunately. Ta-da! We'll go fit that on the top and see how, on the base for it, and see how it looks. There it is, sort of flat against that, but I'm happy with that. Some more quick user testing, and it met with approval. All right, I did some test fits, some test carving, and it turns out that I think that's a 60-degree router bit in my trim router made the most realistic looking lines, as opposed to the and also the most control compared to the Dremel. So we're going to go with that and see how this comes out. Okay, wow, I'm really happy with how that turned out. I wasn't entirely sure. I was worried I was going to have to start over, but yeah. These triangle guys. I'll be honest, that's so easy I want to do more, but I'm worried I'm going to screw it up because faces are hard. While I had the mask on here, I traced the lines for the mouth, and I'm just going to cut that out with a jigsaw real quick. There it is with the face on it. I gotta say, I was worried about this, but I am really happy with how that turned out. It's still just taped on up there, so it's not quite fitting perfectly, but good enough to at least get an idea of what it looks like. All right, we're going to start working on covering up the wood parts of the cat tower to make it comfy for the cats. So first thing we're going to do is the round tops are going to look like trees. I got this very fuzzy green rug. It's like a little, I think 3 foot by 5 foot little area rug, but it's very thick. So instead of cutting it from this side, I'm going to flip it over and cut it out on the back, just like I would with fake fur or something, but there's a long nap. So if I can cut this way, we're not going to be trimming these the nap short in places, so it'll look better. I'm basically treating this like I would for making a puppet out of fake fur. So we'll flip it over, mark it out, and then cut it out. Wrangle this to fit on the bench. There we go. So I don't want it to be this close to the edge. I want to give it a little bit of extra space along the sides to fold over to wrap around. I'm not going to wrap the entire thing, so like the bottom will still be exposed wood, but I want to be able to cover the edges at least. So I'm going to leave, this is 1/2 inch plywood, so I'm going to leave a little more I'm going to take that into account, so a ½ inch plus however far I want it in. So I'm going to say about an inch. So extend out the sides 1.5 inches. All right, now instead of using scissors, like I said, we're going to cut this out from behind with the utility knife. So that's what it looks like from the top, and then flip it over and we'll roll those pieces up and like put some staples in to help hold those sides in. But I think also what we're going to do, this is carpeting, right? Double-sided carpet tape. Put a few pieces on here just to help stick it in place. I'm not going to worry about, you know, I want to not have to worry about, is it going to come off? That's stuck down. Put in some 3/8 inch staples into the staple gun here. And we're going to start basically, if this were a compass, the ordinal coordinates, so top, bottom, side. You can see that this also has a little bit of padding, which is nice. Doesn't help me at all, but it might appeal to the cats. Or, you know, not, because they're cats. There we go. Looks like a tuffet, but put this on top, and hopefully it'll be a nice little spot for the cats to sit. And then we'll do the other one. All right, I went ahead and did the same thing with the base. So that's nice and squared off there. And we have our two platforms. Lots of good contrast there, you can definitely tell. There we are. It's at least a little bit better. So, got the base, two platforms. Next step is going to be wrapping the sides, the little pillars that are going to be holding everything up, that are going to look like palm trees. And for that, I went, just like I got this green carpet, I got some brown carpet to do for the sides. And once everything is sort of carpeted up, we will start attaching pieces and then start maybe working on finishing off the tiki head and the palm tree leaves. So this is the other piece, one of the other upright pieces. We're going to wrap this with some sisal rope, and that'll be a scratching post for them. I've put this on other things for them, and it's honestly, with our cats, one of the favorite things they like to scratch. The carpeting is there if they want to scratch on it, but mostly they use it, I think, just to climb up. But the sisal they like to use for scratching and stretching. I got two 50-foot sections. Yeah, 50 feet length. And I know one won't cover 3 feet. It'll cover maybe about 2 feet, I think. But, so I got some more to just do the whole thing. Though, if I had to, I'm going to start at the top and work down, because they don't really use the bottom very much anyway. And we're just going to attach this with the tool of the day, the staple gun. Just start and wrap it around. I'm going to put one at the top. I'll put one at the bottom. I know some people do like hot glue all along the way. For what we're doing, that's not really necessary. Like this just needs to hold itself to the wood. It's not like self-adhesing or adhesive, whatever. It doesn't need to stick to itself. So this is 3/8 inch rope, so I'm using the 1/2 inch staples this time. This is exactly as exciting as you would expect, so I imagine we're just going to speed this bit up. That's one 150-foot section just for science. That is about 21 inches of 2x4 for your own information. So we'll finish off the rest here. This didn't quite cut straight, so I'm going to cut this off straight. But otherwise, that's one of our posts. And it will get one of these guys on top. So this is the carpet. I actually cut it off the larger roll just because it's not going to fit on my workbench. And this is basically going to go on the same way. We're going to wrap it around our posts, staple them on. I think I'm going to trim off maybe this finished edge. Either way, I will need to trim off some because this is longer than the longest piece. But you get an idea of what we're working with. It's just same thing, cut from the back, wrap it around, staple it on. All right, just in case you weren't clear on what I was describing, this is how I've done it, where I've stapled down one edge, and then that way I can sort of pull it tight. I'm not debating whether I want to just overlap it, or if I want to try to like butt it up and like trim off the extra. But do that, and then that's our posts. I'm going to try to get as much of it sort of pulled over as we can. So I've got the post here wrapped up, and we're going to put it on to our platform. I think what I'm going to do, so I can keep this in place, I'm going to put some of that carpet tape, double-sided tape, to hold this in place so I can flip it over, and then put a screw. Actually, I want to do two at least, because one means it has a pivot point. So I'll put some tape on it and stick it into place. As I find my knife, there it is. So as a PSA, if you're using this thicker carpet, it doesn't work well with screws or screw drills. It tends to get caught up in the bit, which just makes it that much more interesting and fun. So I'm going to try to figure out how to get this off, and then also figure out a different way to attach this. So here's what I did. I basically undid the staples on this side, went in and screwed it underneath this. So maybe in the future, attach the top, then the carpet on these parts. But either way, it wasn't that hard, and we're just going to redo half of this real quick. But we've got our other one attached. Here's where we are right now. We've got the two medium posts done and the base done. I think what we're going to do is actually start attaching them as I finish them off. And then that way I can sort of put them up and let the cats start to get used to them a little bit. But I'm going to take the lessons learned dealing with this green carpeting and put them in place, and then cut a hole for the post to sit in. So I'm not trying to go through that green material. What I'm going to do now is take these little areas that I pulled up and drill the pilot holes through here, and then that way I can line those up on these pieces. So I sort of cut little flaps. I'll drill the pilot holes down and then use that to attach the screws. Yep, this is just as easy as I expected it to be. All right, I put a couple of screws in each of those. They're holding, but I want to put a couple of lag screws in there to hold them a little tighter, just because the torque at this height is pretty significant. So 12-pound cat jumping on it at 3 feet is a lot more pound-feet of torque than they would be at the bottom. So I'm going to drill the pilot holes and then put these guys in. Those two are secured. I think I'm going to do the same thing with this one, which is to cut a slot in the carpet and then the green rug and attach this. I think that'll be easier than trying to deal with it with the top on. So we'll start off by attaching this one. What we have left to do is cover the tiki head and, for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it the cradle, the half circle part. Cover those with carpeting. But it's starting to come together. After I carved this, I took it outside and sprayed it with some, in this case, leak seal. Like the leak seal? Yeah. Which is basically the same stuff as Plasti Dip, which is just a spray on rubber. I think this might be a little bit thicker. But that does two things. It seals and protects it. I also, before I did that, hit it with a heat gun while it was wrapped around the tube, which helped sort of seal in that that curve that I want there a little bit. Also opened up the pores to make it a little more receptive to the Flex Seal stuff there. So I'm gonna go out and take this and spray paint it. I went and got some spray paint that matches the rug that's going to be covering or the carpeting that's going to be covering the rest of this piece, so it'll look a little bit better. And then we will spray paint it and then go over it with a wood stain to make it look more like wood, and we'll finish that part up. All right, this is it, the tiki head after just brown spray paint. I actually took the carpeting I'm using and found a somewhat matching spray paint, and I kind of like it just like this rather than doing a stain over top of it to make it look more realistic, because let's face it, it's not gonna look realistic. There's a little bit of cracking, but I don't think there's too much because doesn't need to go that far. So what I'm gonna do is glue this onto our actual cave area here. So I'm going to just apply some contact cement to both sides and then let it dry, get a little tacky. Not like 70s tacky, but a little sticky. And then just put those two pieces together. That should hold just fine. So we'll do that first and then work on covering the other parts of the area that still need to be covered up. If you intend to do any working with EVA foam, I feel like contact cement of some sort is a requirement. I'm going to put this on kind of thick because this is a floor mat, so it has these raised ridges in here, which are supposed to make it less likely to slip. I'm not going to say non-slip. And honestly, I'm just going to do the whole thing. This is a case where if I had a larger bottle of this, larger jar, container, I'd probably just dump it all on and then brush it out with a acid brush or something, but we'll make do with what we have. Kind of have everywhere coated, but I'm going to go back through and look for any places that maybe could use some more. I want to be particularly good around the edges so those don't stick up. Like I said, I'm going to set this aside and let it dry for a little bit and then do the same on the tube, but we're going to cut that. I'll just do that later. You don't need to see how that part works, and it doesn't fit on the screen. All right, so considering the difficulties I had getting the green tops attached through the really nice rug, really hard to drill through material there, I'm going to go ahead and at least do the pre-drilling for the top and then wrap that in the carpeting. I've got the carpeting cut, so the next step is just going to be putting it around there. So we'll go ahead and get this attached and or pre-drilled and go from there. Something that I learned in this project that I found very surprising was just how effective double-sided carpet tape is on carpet. I would never have guessed that. So, because this is already attached at the bottom, I'm going to put this in up top. I'll put the tape down to hold it here, and take the excess and wrap it around to meet in the middle. And I can cut out around the post here. I'm trying to get that approximately even. Now, I cut this a little bit longer than I need to. It'll be easier to cut it to size when it's actually attached, I think. So we'll put a strip of tape down the middle and up on the sides. Actually, if I put one on the side first, that might work better. Archimedes is getting impatient. I've taken his cat tower outside where you can see it, but he can't do anything with it. So the glue is still setting on this, the contact cement, but in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and wrap this with the carpeting. And I kind of cut this already to size, but I left it a little big just to be safe. And just like we were going to do on the cradle portion, I'm going to hold this on with carpet tape. So just do, say, 3 strips, top, middle, bottom. Stick this on, and then cut the overlap. So I cut this a little bit long up top as well as long this way. So I'm just going to ride my knife along the bottom here and trim that up. Just need that glue to finish, and then we'll be able to put this in place. We'll cut a little bit of the green carpet to be able to screw this down, but our head is done anyway. Actually, I had to take a break because my phone overheated. So what I'm going to do now, I've got the notches cut out on the sides, so these wrap under rather nicely. So I'm going to, I initially said I was going to use tape, but I'm instead going to so I cut this long, again, just to leave some extra space, because it'll be easier to trim that off now. So take the knife and just sort of cut. I can feel where the tubing is, so I can just cut along that as a means of sort of cutting it to the right length. All right, I'm ready to attach the tiki head portion, and I cut out some of the green fabric, green carpeting. I gotta say, I don't recommend using this. It's really hard to work with. All the fun of fake fur, but with padding as well. Anyway, I cut out that so I could attach the wood that we put at the beginning here to the base. And with that, our tiki head's attached. I'm going to put some of the carpeting up here just to cover up that top. Leave the hole open, but cover that up. And then, aside from cleaning it up a little bit, we'll be done. All right, so I've got some of my carpeting, and I'm going to run it on here and just figure out exactly where I need to be able to cut it. And then to get that inside curve, do the same thing on the inside. And that's why I like these markers as opposed to using a Sharpie. So with that, I can just cut this out, tape maybe a couple of staples, and apply it onto there, and call it good. we go. As you can see, our user, at least this one, has accepted it. I need to figure out something for this. I don't like this. I don't have a good answer. I'm going to have to come back and think about that and come back to it. And I will probably do something to sort of paint the inside of the tiki head there, at least around the mouth. But Archimedes has accepted it. Nevermore, we'll get there eventually. She fears new things, though, so. You going up? All right, well, until next time, this is Mike signing off for Archimedes. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you decide to try doing a cat tower of your own, let me know.